Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course stream for fun. Today we're taking a look at gaming news between December 11th and 17th, and we got a lot today, so this will be a big one. I got 3 pages this time, so this will probably be at least an hour. We'll see how we do. If you want to work on speeding this up a little bit and you're watching me at YouTube at Gaming Garbage 22, then go ahead and put this to like a 1.25 times play speed, and that'll help you speed through it a little bit. Sometimes I do that, and it's actually helpful to get through the information. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, we're going to be talking about some GTA 6 again, a little bit of Doom, Suicide Squad, quite a bit of Bethesda stuff. So we got stuff on Fallout and Starfield. We're also going to be talking about Twitch a little bit, some more layoffs, E3. We're going to be talking about The Last of Us. We're also going to be talking about The Day Before. Oh my word, what a mess that is. We're going to talk about the new Marvel Blade game. And yeah, that is a lot, folks. So let's go ahead and get into it. But first, I need to... I want to say where I'm getting my information. I'm going to try to remember to also put these down in the description as well for you to check out. But where I get my news is from a lot of other channels, and just try to condense it for you guys. There's a lot of channels out there about gaming news, and I don't cover it all just like they do. I leave some of it out, but kind of whatever is most important for the week. So you can check out YongYea, MrMattyPlays, the AngryJoeShow. This time I had Redshift and also Force Gaming, and then Blame Truth the CODfather. So again, all of these will be in the description, or posted in a comment, so you can check these guys out. And honestly, yeah, they do pretty good work, and I really like watching them. So let's go ahead and get into this. So GTA 6. So we know that when the trailer released, this was a really big deal. This had an incredible amount of views in a 24-hour period. It even hit the Guinness Book of World Records at like 110 million views, which was insane. Last time I saw it had like 147 million views, which is crazy. A lot of anticipation for this. Again, we haven't had a GTA, a new one anyway. We did get like a collection earlier, not too long ago, a few years ago, but like we haven't had a new GTA since, 2013, believe it or not, which is crazy, and we still got to wait until 2025 for this game to come out. So between GTA 5 and GTA 6, that's been 12 years. And they've honestly been able to milk it pretty good, through the online and through the casino and stuff. A lot of people have played GTA 5, and even myself, I really enjoyed it. I didn't care so much about the multiplayer, but yeah, really, really good. So they're in the news again, because during the trailer that they had, at least the first trailer, you can go back and watch it if you like, they had several kind of parodies or likenesses in there, and these people are trying to get money from Rockstar, saying, hey, you basically used me as a character in your trailer, I want my money. And so I don't really know if any of these are going to go anywhere. Some of these have threatened to sue. We'll basically see after the holidays if any of this materializes. But we had in the trailer, we had the tattoo Joker, so that was pretty close. The nudist watering his lawn with a white brim hat. There were also several other parodies too. And so, yeah, people are starting to come out of the woodwork and being like, hey, that's me, you used me in your trailer. And I really don't know how this is going to go. Probably not very well for those that are, going to be the plaintiffs. Because, again, it's not like they used them exactly. It was a parody or like a representation. It wasn't a perfect representation. And so good luck to them. Rockstar has probably already thought about this. They'll go through the motions if they need to. But yeah, I don't think they're going to win on this. Some people have even asked for millions of dollars, which it's like, seriously? Okay, whatever. Good luck, folks. So yeah, that's just kind of crazy though. So GTA 6 isn't even out. We got at least another year and a half, and it's already got lawsuits getting thrown out of it, most likely, which is just crazy. Short note here. Also, Doom hit 30 years it's hard to think that game has been out for 30 years. So 1993 is when it started. I remember Doom for the PlayStation in like 96, 97, I think. And I also remember it for PC. To only think that games are on the PC is kind of wild today. So we have so many different current consoles and attempts at consoles from then to now. But yeah, Doom hit 30 years. That's wild. So, pretty crazy. Next is Suicide Squad. So we did find out that in the past, through this live service, that this game is going to be like mandatory online. Well, there's been enough rebuttal of that there will be, this is official, there will be an offline option, but it will be an update to the game. So the launch of the game is going to be online. That's going to be mandatory, and eventually, at some point, there's going to be an update where they'll have the game with an offline option. So it's always going to start online as well, unless, of course, you don't have a connection, then you'll default to that. But yeah, the launch won't have that option, so that sucks. But honestly, Rocksteady, no, I think it's someone else. I shouldn't say who it is, because, yeah, I don't remember. There's so many out there. Anyway, the developers and the publisher, they're going to want their data. They're going to want to be able to promote their store. They're going to want to be able to promote their live service aspects. And so, yeah, they want everybody to be online, and data is very, very important to that. And we're going to get into that, because I got my next State of Gaming video. I know I haven't had one for a while, but dude, I am proud of this one. Worked pretty hard on it, and I'll be bringing that soon on Activision. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. Let's see. Twitch is also, unfortunately, Twitch is going to be shutting down, which is kind of crazy. So this isn't just everywhere. This is just going to be in South Korea, but they technically can't make a profit anymore. They can't make it work. They say the fees are too high. They say that it's about 10 times more expensive in South Korea than any other country. And the reason for that is because of the rules and regulations they have by the federal government. And so they just have to pay too much, and they don't make enough to make it sustainable. So, and if they risk keeping this open, then they're going to have to pull funds from other regions or other areas to try to make enough. And everybody's kind of losing money right now. No one really has any, so probably the better option is just, unfortunately, to kill Twitch in South Korea. And, the South Korean government, there could be a loophole or a workaround, but there's a lot of legal stuff to go through, a lot of petitions and applications and whatever, and that's going to take time. But Twitch will continue to find a way to keep the service on or bring the service back to South Korea, because for some people, I mean, Twitch is a huge staple in South Korea. Some people, just like here or anywhere else, they make their money or their kind of side hustle or side gig off of Twitch. And now that that's gone, it's like, well, is Kicker going to move into that spot? Is some other service going to move into that spot? We don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this develops, but we know that Twitch has already been having financial issues, and now having to pull out of a country, well, that's probably not going to help their cause. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. Let's talk about layoffs. So we got some new layoffs. Again, folks, this is just continuous layoffs. I really think we're going to have continued layoffs into 24. I don't think we're done with this, but New World Interactive, which made Insurgency Sandstorm, CODemasters, which made WRX Racing and F1 Racing, and Tiny Build, which made Hello Neighbor. They're all having layoffs. Now, we don't know how many for any of these studios, but we know that Insurgency Sandstorm isn't doing very well financially. We also know that for the CODemasters that make the racing games, which they do make pretty dang good racing games, honestly, but there's just a lack of sales. There's just not enough money coming in. And then Tiny Build, well, they had to pay legal fees to Versus Evil, and they had to settle with them for $3.5 million plus legal fees going through the courts. So that's a lot of money. And so, yeah, they're going to be having layoffs too. Probably pretty significant. As far as we know, none of these are going to shut down. They're still going to run and operate. They're still going to make their games. But, at what cost? When you start to get rid of people, you're starting to lose talent. You're starting to lose experience. And, everyone's got to basically run as a business. We understand that. But to lose people, you don't want to lose too many. I even worry about Bungie. They already lost 8% and they lost some pretty good people with experience. And so, how are they going to do with Marathon? We'll get to see. And how are they going to cap off Destiny? And how are they going to support that after the final shape? It's probably not going to really look too good. So, yeah, when you're losing a good portion of your experience base from your company, that's usually not a good thing. So we'll see what happens with them. E3 is officially dead. So they've been having some problems, but let's start from the beginning. So they started in 1995. I remember being as a kid, getting into video games, and like E3 was like a huge thing, and I loved it. I absolutely loved E3, just the idea of being able to go there to LA and actually test out some of the games and see a ton of the different companies and studios and publishers and console makers to kind of see what the latest tech was, what the latest games were, how things were being pushed, pushing the envelope to create the better games and experience and bigger open worlds and all that. It was just very exciting, and I loved E3. I loved reading about it back when we had magazines. Can you believe that? It's hard to say that. It's crazy. Time's moving so quick. Anyway, so when did this issue all start? Well, E3 got pretty dang big, so it also got expensive too at the convention center. And but then when we had COVID and the world basically locked itself down, well, they couldn't do it in 2020, which kind of sucks. I think they did technically try to have like a digital version, but that opened the floodgates to really their demise. Because even though they aired it online and technically had an E3, well, that's when Jeff Keighley peeled off, wasn't going to help with them anymore, and started his own Summer Game Fest, at least starting the plans anyway. And then we had the first Summer Game Fest in 2021. But, E3 was able to prove, along with Jeff Keighley with his Summer Game Fest, that, hey, techs, publishers and console makers, they can have their own kind of like publisher direct as well. They can do their own stream and share their own stuff. So we started having some companies that were also having issues with the managers of E3 not liking what was going on, and things too were actually quite disorganized after the lockdowns. They never seemed to really get on their feet. So we saw Sony leave, we saw Nintendo exit, we also saw Xbox, we also saw Ubisoft, and several others, and it was just like, man, they are just getting pooped on. They're going to have some trouble here. And now we have all of these different shows that we gotta watch. Yours truly, so that you guys don't have to. You can just wait for the video. But yeah, they're no longer consolidated into one. Now it's split up onto all of these different things, which I think is such a bummer. And E3 never just really recovered from that. They were planning to come back in 23. That didn't happen this year. And on December 12th of this year, EA shared a statement that it's over. That it's officially done. So, what a bummer. But yeah, it was always a dream of mine to actually go to an E3 at some point and just see the environment, being able to meet people, be able to meet teams, working on some of the games, and just see what's coming, and it's just a fun way to get excited. And now we don't really have that. We don't have a hands-on experience anymore. To a point we do for some, but man, it will take an arm and a leg in cost and management and everything else to actually get to where E3 was. And I just think it's a bummer that that's gone. For those of you that were able to go, man, congratulations. That will be experience you'll have for a long time. And, as we age and move on through life and stuff and get older, we can kind of look back and see how things were and used to be, and the benefits, the advantages of going through something like that, that, like, future generations will never experience. So, yeah, kind of a bummer. Let's see. Oh, boy. The day before. We got to talk about this. What a horrible launch. And it's now officially shut down. So, it only lasted about 4 days, not even a week. And so let's work through this. So the day before, this has been a game that's technically been in development for quite some time, like over 5 years. And there was some pretty shady kind of marketing. Not a lot mentioned about the game, but the head of the entire project. They also had some issues with name. The name of the game. Um, but yeah, they tried getting like kind of hinting at Konami. They tried taking some things from kind of like showing The Last of Us a little bit. They're trying to kind of market it as something special and draw people in from certain pictures or certain fonts of the letters and texts, and showing little snippets of things to kind of get people excited. But we've done a full run around with this game of thinking it's okay, maybe it's kind of like Silent Hill, maybe it's kind of like Resident Evil, maybe it's more like Metal Gear Solid, maybe Kojima is working on this too, as a side partner, which he's never done before, until now with OD, which we got to see at the Game Awards. And then it was like, oh, well, yeah, it's something else. Even at one point, he ended up having people, volunteers, helping him trying to get this project put together. We never really knew how many people were ever working on the game. It's just like, okay, something just seems really off with this. And then we also had the delays. So there was even that too. Finally, this did actually launch. This was supposed to be launched 3 different times this year. And finally, the 3rd time it came out this month. It launched as early access, wasn't even a full game. And these gameplay trailers, every time we saw one, it just looked worse and worse and worse. Kind of this deterioration of just quality. You could just see it. Just didn't look very good. So yeah, this early access was $40 just on Steam. At one point, this was also supposed to come to Xbox, and then they ended up removing that. And then now this was just going to be a Steam thing, and then not even a full game. Now it's just early access. And for $40, that's really steep for an early access game on Steam, in my opinion. But yeah, when it launched, oh my word. The amount of stuff going on with this game. It shouldn't even been released. It is horrible even as an early access. Playing like a pirate game called Atlas, kind of from the start is pretty rough, but at least it's flippin' functional, folks. The day before was just completely broken. So let's work through some of this. So there were major issues, bugs, glitches, stability issues, barely any zombies in the game. Players were having trouble getting into servers. There were actually so many people trying to get in. The company couldn't produce enough servers to handle the volume. So people were constantly, being kicked out. There were so many pings actually on the servers that were open that it was crashing the servers. So the server has to support a certain bandwidth of data, supporting players and items in the game and structures and stuff. Well, you can actually overload it with so many people trying to get in. And so, yeah, there were so many pings and so many people trying to get into the servers, it was just crashing them. And this is the same problem that we got to see with, like, Diablo 4. And we've seen this with some other multiplayer games, too. It's just like there's too much volume. And, yeah, this game was really iffy. A lot of people, I think, were interested to see if it was really worth it. Trying to get some, certainly the content creators and influencers trying to stream and get some points or, some extra views or money or whatever. And but good gal, with everything that was going on, IGN gave this a 1 out of 10. And after 4 days, Fantastic, the publisher and maker, ended service and shut the game down, stating that the company was broke, that they didn't have any money to really sustain this. People are going to get their money back. There will be full refunds and everything. But yeah, just what a flippin' mess. But so many aspects, too, of a kind of a MMO. Well, it really wasn't an MMO. They even changed that partway toward the end of development. But this was kind of supposed to be like a kind of like survival extraction shooter game. But there's no melee. You couldn't climb. You couldn't use ladders. There was no directional audio, so you could hear stuff or gunshots maybe from other players, and you have no idea where it's coming from. The lag input was ridiculous. Literally seconds for some people of shooting their gun to getting affected. People were actually shooting their friends instead of the zombies because of the lag effects. hitboxes were bad. People were getting stuck on everything. You literally had gigantism to the hilt with everybody spawning at the hub. You know, you'd have players be moving through the world and just suddenly getting super huge and then shrinking back down again. The area to actually build a little outpost or kind of pitch your tent in a way. The frame rate was horrendous out there, even for people that had pretty good PCs. I mean, we're talking, seeing some of it, it was like 10 frames, 15 frames a second. It was really, really flippin' bad. And so, yeah, this was just an absolute disaster. And so, technically, there's supposed to be some refunds. You know, the publisher is working with everybody and doing some math just on Steam. We got to see a peak of about 35,000 people. So doing the math at $40 a pop, well, it's like, holy smokes. I mean, they basically made $1.4 million on this, and that's not enough money to keep stuff open. And with all of the projects and stuff, and early access, who knows that was, how long was that planning to be, really? And if you're only going to run it for 4 days, it's like, good grief. Are you basically just taking people's money? And it seems like that's actually what the case was, folks, is that this was actually fraud, a type of scam. Because let's dig into some other data. We found out that after, basically during this whole thing of shutting it down, Fantastic had already changed its name to 8 Points. They already had a new game that was made called Wild 8 on Steam. The CEO, too, had also removed himself from the Fantastic website and also from LinkedIn. All content on their YouTube channel was removed, besides a message saying that the game was shut down. I mean, holy smokes, it's like everything was planned. So yeah, in my opinion, this is the worst gaming scam of the year. This is insane. I mean, they spent years pushing this, volunteers putting hundreds of hours probably into this game. No real sense of direction, just the wishy-washiness of even what this game was. And then every time they released a gameplay trailer over the years, it was just worse and worse and worse in quality every single flipping time. If you want to follow a really good progress through the entire thing, go to Force. Let's see. Let me look up this guy, Force Gaming. His channel. He worked on following this pretty closely. And that's where I actually got quite a bit of my information was from him. And YongYea, too. He also has several videos on this. But yeah, just absolutely horrible. And so, yeah, this is going to be one of the games I'm going to talk about for the worst game of the year. You know, we had the Game Awards. We have a Game of the Year, which is wonderful. But, man, we've had so many horrible games this year and disappointments. I think we need to actually have a worst game of the year. And then you guys are actually going to get to vote on it. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, just brutal. The day before is just such a joke. Unreal. So we also got to hear, too, about The Last of Us Online. It's officially canceled now from Naughty Dog. They got some feedback from quality assurance from Bungie. And Bungie was just like, look, this is not going to do anything. This isn't going to maybe, you know, run for a little bit, and then players aren't going to want to play this anymore. But yeah, you're not going to have the retention you're looking for. The project isn't really worth it. So the devs actually kind of went back. We worked on it some more, but now officially it is dead. So most of the devs have been put on other projects. The ones that have been left, there's just been a skeletal crew for part of this year. And another issue was that Naughty Dog released in a statement saying that there wasn't enough resources or devs in order to make a full MMO like The Last of Us Online and also make other story-driven projects. And so they decided to focus on story-driven games, which I'm very happy about this. I think story-driven games are the way to go, and I think they're gonna excuse me, continue to grow and be successful. But yeah, live services had its day in the sun. You know, they've made a lot of their money, but I think they're going to have a tough time, you know, through this recession that we're, quote, not experiencing. and two, I think studios are going to continue to shut down and also have layoffs. And so this is, this is pretty crazy. We did hear from Naughty Dog that they do have a new fantasy game IP that they're working on. They have been working on it for a while. And then they've also made Uncharted and also made a Jack and Dexter game called Legacy. Hold on, folks. All right, folks, I'm back. Sorry about that. So yeah, it's a bummer that The Last of Us is, canceled. We've also had other cancellations too, where like online services haven't really been moved or been a part of or focused on. Just like Red Dead Redemption Online, that lasted a little bit, and it's basically a shell and doesn't really exist anymore, which sucks. And but I am glad to see that some studios are really starting to keep a focus on story-driven games and do what they're good at. We even got to see this with BioWare earlier, as they tried Anthem, and that was horrible. And they've said in previous statements that they're gonna continue to stay focused on story-driven games, and they've also removed the live service aspect out of their next Dragon Age game, which we'll probably get to hear more about later next year. But yeah, I think that's great. It is a bummer that all of that work is just done, canceled, all that money down the drain and other resources, but at least they can recognize that it's not something worth putting money into and trying to release, like some of the names we're going to talk about when I do a video on, the worst game of the year. Let's talk about the new Blade game. So we got a little piece of this at the Game Awards. This was an announcement. This is also going to be published by Bethesda, and this is going to be done by Arcane, a different studio than Redfall. This will be the group that did Deathloop, which was pretty dang successful. We got numbers that there was a total of 5 million players on Deathloop, which is quite good. And so Deathloop was definitely successful. But something that's kind of weird is we did get a post saying that, quote, development has begun, and that was on December 7th. And so why would they want to promote a game that's literally got years in development left? Like, we're not going to see this until maybe 26, 27 at like the earliest. Because it takes years to make a game, even a small one. So we have a pretty good idea too that this is going to be a 4 or 5 year dev cycle for the game. And so, yeah, looking at 4 or 5 years, I mean, for Pete's sakes, we're looking at 28, 29. This could even be a launch title for the next gen console in 2028. It's a perfect time frame for it. And so, yeah, it's just kind of weird. Why announce it so early if we got years to wait left? It's like announcing Elder Scrolls 6 so early, and just like we got years and years down the road until we actually get anything. There's also no mention of exclusive or if this is going to be on Game Pass. We do know this is going to be an Xbox game. Xbox is actually putting quite a bit of money to fund this project, but so far there's been a refusal to comment on this from Xbox, Bethesda, or Arcane on anything else besides the game will come out eventually, development has begun, and that's kind of all we know about it. So, yeah, it's just kind of weird they had that on the Game Awards. Yeah, it just seems way too flippin' early, honestly. It's just kind of crazy. So let's take a little bit of a look at Fallout 76. So this has been a game that has been around for a while. I remember playing it at launch, and man, I was so disappointed with this one. It really felt like a Starfield, honestly. It was just kind of boring, but it had way more bugs. There was issues with um, it also being their first big multiplayer game ever as a studio, and that had its own myriad of bugs that I hope we never see in future games. But they do make a patch every so often, or like an expansion or update. And the latest one was Atlantic City. Now, this letter came out not too long ago, maybe a week or a couple weeks ago, but there are still some major bugs in Atlantic City that really shouldn't be there. We're talking game breaking stuff. And you would think Bethesda would have their stuff put together already, in just about every expansion they've put out so far the last several times for Fallout 76, there have been some really big major bugs. There is something called expeditions where you're able to kind of go around, engage in some action, and basically get some rewards at the end, like gear and stuff. But they're not overly exciting. And Atlantic City does have this, but again, it's kind of more like an arena style. And you're just taking down enemies, and as you're trying to get some other stuff done, it's kind of... the enemies are kind of more annoying than anything else, and there isn't really a good balance in the combat. But yeah, there's some glitches, like working through a quest and coming back in to turn it in or to do something else, and like everybody's naked in there with no clothes. Also, someone, this is MrMattyPlays, by the way. He actually did a really good review on this. Personally, I haven't played it. I should say that. But watching through his review, it's kind of embarrassing how some of the issues are still pretty present that Bethesda should have figured out by now. With some of these basic major bugs that they still have in their games, even getting stuck in power armor, the game freezing. Yeah, this is kind of stuff that shouldn't be in a AAA title game that still has support, is still having expansions, and that is incredibly frustrating. Now, there are some really good aspects of Atlantic City. There's a really good atmosphere. You got a little bit of a casino and some kind of side games to play at the casino, which is nice. And it kind of has like that New Vegas vibe a little bit. But again, this isn't like a full expansion. It's not even the entire expansion. This is actually going to have two parts. And so the first part is kind of the focus on the expeditions and introducing you to Atlantic City. And then the other part is actually kind of full-blown story with characters and side quests and all of this stuff. There's still some of these in Atlantic City, but they're very fetchy and repetitive. And so the real expansion of Atlantic City is going to be coming out later in part 2. And it really just kind of seems like a half-assed job, in my opinion. I really encourage you guys, if you're into Fallout stuff, take a look at MrMattyPlays on his video of Atlantic City and have a look at that yourself. But you'll see exactly what I mean. It's just like, man, what a mess. Okay, let's get into some Bethesda stuff. So, we, this was kind of a big deal, and I think this is going to have further reaching effects. But we know Starfield has been a disappointment for a lot of people, including myself. I still like the game. I still want to continue to play it. With a lot of stuff I do on the channel, I don't have a lot of time to play and finish a lot of games. And that'll probably be pretty normal for quite a while. And that's okay. I'm okay with sacrificing that. But yeah, with Starfield, there was a lot of stuff that were kind of I expected to be there, and a lot of other people too. But yeah, there's just been kind of a letdown, and we've heard about a modder now that just says they're not going to work on their particular mod anymore because the game is too bland and boring. And that's kind of brutal. Now, these people, they've worked on another mod called Skyrim Together, and this allows up to 30 players in co-op to roam around Skyrim on a server, if you will, and play Skyrim. I mean, that sounds pretty fun, honestly. I'd love some of these open world games to be co-op, and I'd love to have more co-op be around anyway. I'd love to have more of that. But Yeah, seems like one of the main guys working on this, he had about 70% of the code transferred to be able to work on Skyrim, and finally played the game, and was just like, oh wow, this is really bad. Like, this is, I don't want to put the amount of work in to make this mod for this game. And it is Bethesda's job to make a game enticing, the world enticing, the characters kind of like help draw you in to get you excited, because it's not like they're being paid for these mods. Most people aren't. Most of these mods, whatever they are, they're just free. You just download them, and I think it's pretty insane that I think it speaks volumes that we have a small team that has made a pretty well-known mod. You know, they were going to make Starfield together, and they're like, nope, we're not going to do this. So they've put the code out there. It's open source. It's free. Anybody can pick it up and run with it and finish it if they wish. But to have kind of a bigger modder quit, I think really kind of speaks volumes. And I think others are going to quit too if things really don't change. And right now, looking at Steam charts, we're looking at a 30-day average of only 15,000 players on Starfield. And this is a game that had millions and millions of copies sold. We had millions of players playing this between Xbox and PC. And I just think it's insane with just how far it's dropped. Because this launched in September, folks. And yeah, the drop-off has been pretty extravagant. It's almost at zero compared to where it started. Personally, I feel better that I didn't spend as much on Starfield, and I also didn't pay for early access. I just have this on Game Pass, and so I don't feel as bad. It's probably why I gave it a little bit of a higher score, but thinking if I paid $70 or $100 for this game, I'd be kind of frustrated, because I'd be like, the remnants of a Bethesda game are there, like Skyrim and Fallout 4 and 3 and Oblivion and etc., the games that I love, right, and really enjoy roaming around in. It just doesn't quite feel the same, and one of the biggest issues is that it just flippin' takes too long to really get anywhere or do anything. And the cave system, I really miss the cave system. But yeah, taking a look at Starfield, it's got 15,000 30-day average players. If we take a look at Skyrim right now, it's got 20. If we take a look at Fallout 4, it's got about 16,000. If we take a look at Fallout 76, that's got about 7,000. And so you put all of these together, and there's only about 60,000 people playing, these huge, massive AAA IP games on Steam. That's really not a lot. Now, we're not including other games on PlayStation or on Xbox, but I mean, you have not anywhere close to 100,000 on PC, and you're supposed to be this big AAA studio? That's not good, folks. That's not good. And I'm worried about this because Bethesda better get their stuff put together and really figure out what the expectations are for other players, for their main consumer base, because they're trying to make Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 5. And if they don't nail this, it could kind of kill the brand, unfortunately. Bungie used to be huge. Arcane Austin used to be huge. We used to, Ubisoft and EA used to make really good games. The Assassin's Creed brand and Spec Ops and Dead Space. And, I mean, we've had some really wonderful IPs, but unfortunately a lot of them have gone down. Now, the Dead Space remake, I will say, by Motive, published by EA, was really good. That's still probably my favorite game this year. But yeah, I think Bethesda has a problem, because if they got to find a way to make money, and a lot of people went and bought Starfield, but good grief, Fallout 76 didn't launch good. It basically took 2 years to actually fix the game, put in NPCs in the game, make it feel alive, right? And people don't want to wait 2 years for Starfield. Okay, people don't even want to wait a year, really. Like Bethesda, I think, has a problem because they've now had 2 games in a row where they have kind of been screwing people. And a lot of people went back to Skyrim after Fallout 76 failed. And a lot of people are kind of going back to Skyrim or trying out other games too after Starfield and 76. So I hope Bethesda figures out their stuff. Now, it does sound like they did because Bethesda made a statement. So they said that they've heard us and that they're working on these bugs, the small and the big ones. But they're also going to add free content and features and continue to support this game. So we know that Shattered Skies will be coming at the end of 2024. It's going to come about on the 1-year anniversary, and that's going to be a full expansion for the game. I think it's going to have something to do with the war. It should be fairly interesting. I'm hoping. I'm hoping, folks. But they have said that so far with some of the new features, they're going to add a city map so you can actually see, which makes sense because all their other games did. Why not have one for Starfield? It just makes sense to me. But yeah, they're going to have a city map to be able to help you navigate. They're also going to have mod support and tools. We already knew that was coming. But they're also going to have, quote, all new ways to travel. Now, we don't really know what that means. But we can probably gather that traveling is going to be easier, more streamlined, faster, maybe more smooth even. But I really hope the biggest thing that they fix is traveling on the surface, because it is so slow and monotonous. The animals sometimes just get the frick in the way. It makes me feel a lot of like actually what No Man's Sky used to be before all of their updates. It's just like, oh my gosh, I've seen this before. And the procedural generation, unfortunately, I really think is what made Starfield boring. Okay? It's too big. There's not a lot done there. The cave system sucks. Traversing the land, the moons and the planets suck. There's just a lot of distance between here and there. I mean, the average time to travel from one point to another in an open world game is about 40 seconds from A to B until you get to interact with something else or a ruin or a house or whatever. In Starfield, it's more like 4 minutes. And that's a really long flippin' time to jog somewhere, battle through the enemies or whatever you got to deal with to actually get to another place just to find out, oh, I've already kind of been here, I already know what to expect, or there's nothing here at all. I gotta say, the cave system was probably the biggest disappointment in the game so far. And I said, hey, at least there's caves. Awesome. And you walk in there, and literally you can explore the whole thing in 20 seconds, and there's nothing in there. I mean, what a disappointment. And you don't really feel incentivized to explore. So if they can at least cut the time for traveling from A to B, that will help, right? Help you get into the action faster, kind of incentivize you because it doesn't take as long to get from A to B, but they've already built their layout of the game, and so, on foot, it still takes 4 minutes to get somewhere, which sucks. So if they can speed that up, that's greatly going to help them. And two, if they can tweak their space travel to a little bit to make it more exciting and engaging, that'll help them out too. But we don't really know what those, quote, new ways are going to be. But they did tell us that they plan to roll out fixes and features every 6 weeks. Now that's quite the fast pace in my opinion. I don't know if they can keep that up. We've had other studios trying to have a pretty fast pace at putting out stuff like Overwatch 2 and Halo Infinite. And I don't know if they can keep that up. I hope they can. But boy, every 6 weeks, if they can keep up that pace, fix stuff while adding new stuff to the game, more things to explore, easier ways to travel and stuff like that, I think they can actually make the game pretty good. But again, have they burned too many people? And in my opinion, they have. This might be another No Man's Sky game where it's just very empty and shallow, a lot of repetitiveness, and then over, a couple of years, they kind of do a re-release, and it ends up being this great game. So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. Bethesda is also having a new system to fix some bugs in the game with quests. Where the quests have already been started. And so the system is working on making sure that the bugs can get fixed without having players lose progress. So that would be nice. So they're working on that, and that should be coming out pretty soon. Also, according to them, they understand they need to fix their game. That's nice. They're not coming out. I mean, they were coming out and saying, hey, you just need to do this, or you just need to play a certain way, or, we didn't design it that way, or, hey, if you want to travel faster, use your jetpack. The thing is with an open world, folks, is we don't want to be told how to play the game to have fun. That's totally not the point of an open world game, and I think Bethesda is finally realizing that because their player count is 15,000 people on Steam. When, like, over 1 million people bought the game on Steam. So, yeah, they have lost so much of their player base. It's got to be embarrassing. And so they're at least at a point now where they understand, hey, we need to listen to what players are saying, and the customer is always right. And I really think they're starting to get that. How they execute it, how well they put it out every 6 weeks and stick to their own timetable and stick to their own promises for the game, we still have yet to see that. But as updates come out, I will be keeping up with the patch notes, and I'll honestly be playing the game every once in a while to see how the changes are. Let's see. So the last few pieces of news here. So Skyrim ended up getting an update this year, which is surprising. That game has been running forever. Forever. It's honestly had the most iterations of a game. I think they're at number 7 with all the VR and everything else. It's also been one of the longest supported games. Because, yeah, Skyrim came out like 15 years ago now. It's insane, folks. It's been out a very long time. Excuse me. But Skyrim's update ended up getting some bug fixes, which is good. But also ended up getting something called creations. Now this is basically player-made microtransactions. So there are official mods that are allowed to be in the game and approved by Bethesda. And so far, there's just 7 mods that are paid, and they're all kind of different tiers. But if you bought all of the mods, it'd be $40. And this includes armor sets, certain characters with some quest lines and stuff, dungeons, and also one full expansion, which I guess is actually fairly big. The thing that sucks is that there's still bugs with some of these expansions. The armor sets are fine, but like the characters, the dungeons, and the expansion, they all have some bugs where like the dialogue doesn't work or something kind of glitches, so then you gotta like go back to a previous save and try again to make sure that it actually works like it should. So that's kind of unfortunate. The quality control isn't there like it should be. And that's kind of embarrassing too for the people that are making these, trying to make some money. Something else that's frustrating is that you have to use in-game currency to actually purchase these mods. It's not just a direct transaction in cash. And so you have to use real cash to buy credits from Bethesda, and then basically you can buy these mods with the credits. And it's broken up in a way, of course, like every other freaking game, where you can't buy exactly the amount you need. You always have to buy extra. And there's already a company that's getting in trouble with this that makes 2K games, and NBA 2K is in some serious flipping hot water right now because they're not allowing people to port over their currency that they have left over to the next game. And if you make a game every year, that's kind of important, because otherwise you're just technically stealing. You're giving people credit for something and then they can't use it when you shut the servers down, or you can't transfer it to the next game. So I wonder if Bethesda is going to have this same problem. And other games too. I mean, this is kind of like a rampant issue. And of course they do it on flipping purpose. Of course they do. Of course they do. So, this is the same with Overwatch and Diablo and Call of Duty. That's basically all the same company right there. But yeah, this is not something that's separate. You need to be able to transfer stuff. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy that Skyrim is still getting updates. So something too is with this creation is that Skyrim is kind of like the very favorite Bethesda game that they have, and they know this, and so they do a lot of kind of testing on things on Skyrim first to really see if it's worth it, how it's received, kind of how to fix some things before they move it to other Bethesda games or decide not to try it on any other games at all. And so if Creations actually goes fairly well, if it's pretty well received, if they can work out some of the bugs and issues with that implementation, I think we'll see it in current and future Fallout games, and I also think we'll see it in Starfield. So if you want to also hear more about this, the mods in Skyrim, you can go to redshift, all lowercase, and he has a video that he released that actually goes into depth with each particular mod and kind of how it's all, done and designed, and I definitely recommend watching that if you're interested. One of the last pieces of news is that we finally have an idea of when Fallout 4 Remaster update is going to come out. So we've heard about this for a couple of years. We had somebody several months ago that said, hey, don't even talk about the remaster patch or update to Fallout 4. We're focusing on Starfield. And so it's just been kind of quiet up until then. But now we officially know that it's going to be released next year. Now, what else is happening next year with Fallout is that we're having a TV show. And this is going to come out in April, on my birthday, I think. But yeah, this is going to come out in April on 2024. And so it would make a lot of sense that we actually get kind of to draw people in, to kind of get people moved into maybe video games that aren't normally or whatever, and want to enjoy it, to have an update for the latest Fallout game. Now, the latest one technically is Fallout 76, but it might be a little more relatable to Fallout 4 and also be easier to actually implement an update to Fallout 4 because it's not a multiplayer game. So Fallout 4 kind of makes sense, and to release a remaster update. But yeah, we're going to get the Fallout 4 remaster update the same time we're going to get the TV show. So it's kind of a guess and to see what happens. But yeah, we'll get to see, honestly. It's really not too long. We just got like 4 months, and we'll basically find out. But two, this update is also going to be expected to be better because now they will have had 2 full years to work on this remaster. And we don't know how big it's going to be. We don't know how in-depth it's going to be. It is supposed to be a remaster, so everything's going to be kind of like redone and brought up to higher resolutions and stuff, higher fidelity, which is great. Maybe even a higher frame rate, we'll have to see. But, of course, there's also going to be bugs with this, too. So, yeah, we'll have to see with that. But at least we finally got an answer of when this is coming out, and it'll be next year. And my guess, along with MrMattyPlays, he talked about this as well, that it'll come out around the time of the show. So, thanks for tuning in, folks. I know this is a long one, but yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff happening in the news lately. Good golly. And, but yeah, of course, thanks for tuning in and all that stuff. I hope you guys are doing well. You can always follow me over at YouTube at GamingGarbage22 and also over at Twitch at Don't Tread on Thee. So, hopefully, I'm going to be trying to get to some other stuff, too. I'm going to be a little behind. Things have just been very busy at work, and also got the holidays, too. Christmas is literally in a week, folks. And, take some time to spend time with friends and family. Even if you don't like them that much, that's okay. But really, at the end of the day, what makes life satisfying is relationships. And it's really important to focus on those. So, until next time, folks, I'll see you on the next one.